really excited about the talk next. It's Kasper, who's now a good friend from these conferences, who's exploring the topic of agile transformation in HR, of course, an extremely important topic and a topic that I love to always look at myself. And Kasper has been with Danske Bank for 17 years. So I think you know a bit about this organisation and how to change it. And I'm really looking forward to your presentation. Great to see you today, Kasper.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Over to you.
Thank you. So thank you all for being here and listening in. As mentioned, my name is Kasper, and I've been in Danske Bank for 17 years now, in the last more than a decade now, in different leadership roles, more in a classical setup, you could say. But in the last year and a half or so, I've been leading our so-called people tribe, which makes me a tribe lead, which is a cool agile title, I guess. And that transformation is what I will be entertaining you with for the next 30 minutes or so, and not least the whole cultural part of it. So let's get started. Oops, now I'm also. So first of all, the intention here is just to give a bit of background and then tell you about what we have done over the last year and a half in this agile transformation in Danske Bank, where the people tribe is only one out of 27 different tribes, so covering our entire development areas in Danske Bank. And then summing up with a bit of where are we today, what have we achieved, and how will we continue from here. First of all, Danske Bank, some of you know about it, at least if you're from Denmark or the Nordics. We are a Nordic bank. I have a big echo. I think it's okay again. Sorry. Situated in the Nordic countries, with, as you can see, a leading market share in Denmark, and then more of a challenger role in the other Nordic areas. Around 22,000 employees. And lastly, and also an important point when we talk about this agile transformation, as you can see in the red numbers, we have a lot of legacy. We just had last year our 150th anniversary in Denmark, and even more years in some of the other countries. So both when you talk culture, when you talk systems, also importantly, I think when you talk about societal expectations to us as a bank, there's really a lot of legacy that has an impact, of course, when you do a transformation like this. Let's see. Also, just lastly, we also have a relatively big presentation in Northern Ireland with 1,500 employees, and then service centers both for IT and operations in Lithuania and India, and some smaller offices in these other countries. And the point here is also that in the people tribe, we are covering all of these countries, locations, all of our businesses and so on, and delivering digital tools and processes across all of these markets. So I am, before I joined Danske Bank many years ago, actually a historian, a master of history. So of course, just a little bit of context. I moved into HR about 3 years ago when we started a project, a program to implement a new HCM project. And that was a very classical waterfall project that we had set up at that time. We had milestone plans for the next 3 years, I think, exactly stating that we need to complete this stage at that point and then move on and so forth. We had the classical organizational setup where we had in the project team some IT people, we had some service people, we had some business people, all trying to collaborate the best they could, but also clashing from time to time because there were different priorities, different expectations, and so forth. So really trying all the time to to mitigate that we were in these different organizational units, had different intentions with the whole project and so forth. And then lastly, also, I would call out a very classical leadership style and culture. So we had a steering committee. I just found some old slides where it said that we actually had 5 different governance bodies above this project. So basically, every time we needed to change anything, it had to go through all of these committees, ending up with a steering committee that always had the answers and told us what we needed to do. And then we could go back and start doing that for the next 3 months before coming back to the steering committee, telling them what we did and asking them how to proceed and expecting them to have the answers again. And that, of course, is something that we have also changed now. So what have we done? A year and a half ago, February last year, we did this large reorganization, as mentioned, across the entire development area in Danske Bank, around 4,000 people, moving into new teams and setting up these tribes. But with that also really a strong intention to start building a new culture, a new way of working. We call the program Better Ways of Working, or BWOW. So that's a very core part of it. Organizational wise, the people tribe, to use that as an example, is set up merging these 3 teams, IT, services, and business, into one organization. So we have all the people that we need in the tribe. Of course, we still have stakeholders, but to develop and implement our digital solutions, we have the competencies in our tribe to really drive that. Leading the tribe, also a new concept, or at least in our setup, a co-leadership. So we have myself as the business lead for this tribe, and then I have a partner, an IT lead, and we basically own together the deliveries, the ways of working, and so forth in the tribe. If you look at the slides way back, it said that my job was to define what we were going to do, and then the IT lead would figure out how to do that, what sort of systems to apply, how to do it, and so forth. In reality, and when it starts to work, I think it becomes much more of a partnership where sometimes I also define how to do it, and sometimes my partner also defines what to do, and so forth, but really making that leadership work. And I think what we have learned in that role is that trust is the key here. There are, with 27 different tribes, of course, also 27 different experiences of how this works. And I really think that the glue that in our case makes it work is that we just have a very trustful relationship. So we don't double do things. We trust each other to do the right things and so forth. And lastly, in the tribe leadership team, we also have a tribe coach who is basically driving the whole agile transformation. So both challenging me and the IT lead on our leadership, our ways of working, but of course also across the rest of the tribe. I'll not spend too much time on this slide, but we have 6 different squads, autonomous squads that each own their own part of our digital landscape. The squads are responsible for the end-to-end outcome. And I think that's a very important point here, that they don't just own the applications or ticking off the box that now we have delivered this new feature or this functionality, but they are actually responsible for getting the outcome, the value, the business value that we expected to do. That has turned out to be a really important change and something that takes a bit of time to get used to. And the squads are then set up with these 10 to 12 people teams with a wide range of competencies and roles. We also have horizontally these chapters that are more the sort of HR setup for the tribe people, and most importantly responsible for the developing competencies, making sure that the people have grow in the company, in the tribe, and so forth. So that's how we are organized. But as mentioned, that's the easy part of the transformation. Much more important, and what we are still really learning to work with, is these agile ways of working. So I mentioned that we had this very classical waterfall approach in the past, and what we saw was, of course, we delivered a lot of new systems and did changes and so forth. But we also often experienced that when we finally got to deliver something, it wasn't exactly what our customers or users needed. So the agile ways of working is this more developing setup where you try to avoid the waterfall approach at the top, where you have a Mona Lisa that doesn't quite turn out to be what you may expect. And then in our new way of working, you try as quickly as possible to get some functionality out there, test it out with users, get some feedback, what's working, what's not working. And then in this continuous and iterative development, you improve and you really try to create the value that we were aiming for. And I think also these agile principles and values that are stated here is something that we actually try actively to use every day, because we are still fighting old mindsets, old ways of working every day. So we use these quite actively. And as an example, right now, we are very focused on this outcome orientation that I also mentioned a couple of times. So moving away from planning in 3 months, we need to deliver this functionality, and instead saying in 3 months, we would really like to improve the user experience from A to B. We would like to reduce cost of something by A to B. And then it's really up to the squads to figure out what is the best way to do that. Is it changing the systems? Is it implementing a new system? Is it implementing, really organizational change out in the organization to make sure that our users are using the tools as intended and so forth? So I don't care how we do it, but what I'm trying really to focus and really trying to also get into our teams and into our ways of working is following up on the value we create. And that's really a change and a new way of doing it. And of course, you would love to have ideal and perfect data to follow up on all of this, and that's not always the case, at least yet. Then, as Natal also mentioned, this is also a big change in our way of leading. And as mentioned, I've been working as a leader in Danske Bank for more than 10 years in this more classical operational setup. And I think I sometimes use the sentence that I used to think that my most important job as a leader in Danske Bank was to make sure that my people worked and they did what they were told to do. I actually believe that in the transformation we're in now and the changes we have made and the engagement we have in the teams, my most important job is to make sure that the people also remember to pause, to close the laptops in the evening, because they are so engaged now that they are really, working super hard. And I don't have to tell them to work or do anything. I really have to look after that their well-being, that they are also showing up tomorrow, equally engaged and so forth. So I really see that my main job is 3 things these days. First of all, it's making sure we have a clear and understood direction for the teams, but also for our surroundings, our stakeholders. Everybody understands this is what we're aiming for. Secondly, it is to mitigate and remove obstacles to make sure that the teams and the individuals are able to succeed. So they come to me, they've been trying to do something, they've been trying to fix it. I try, that's really not my best always, not to tell them how to do things, but more in a coaching role to help them find a way around the obstacles that we of course meet every day. So enabling the teams to succeed And then lastly, really importantly, I think it sounds super soft when I say it, but create a good constructive energy in the team, and very definitely also with the stakeholders outside of the tribe. Make sure that people are engaged, that they participate actively, and so forth. So really bringing that vision to life, and aligning with stakeholders and so forth. So that has been a huge change also from, as mentioned, the old way we did it with a very hierarchical setup, where the higher up you were in the organization, the more you were supposed to have all the answers and give all the answers. A big part of this is trying, and that's still difficult, to really build these autonomous teams, and as mentioned, really empowering the teams to come up with the solutions themselves. But of course, behind all of this, and really I think a crucial part to succeed on that empowerment, is that there is a strong and clear governance behind it. So in Danske Bank, we also introduced this four-phased governance setup, where we align priorities, we align between tribes, between squads, and so on, what we intend to do. And it really starts sometime after the summer. It will start again, I guess, with the business setting the strategy. So what is it that the business wants to focus on? What is the outcome that they want? And then in the tribe, we have the so-called ABR, or annual business review, where we start to set very rough estimates on how much of all of these things that are prioritized can we do. We align between tribes and so on, because of course there are also a lot of things in a big complex organization that where we are interlinked. So we sort of make a plan for the year, but a very rough plan. And again, align up to our stakeholders, what can they expect, and of course also, if something is so important and we don't see that we are able to deliver that, then we have the dialogue about what is needed in order to succeed on that. So we have this annual rough plan, and then as you move into the year, you start to define the plan more and more specifically. So we do quarterly reviews in the tribe, where we then take, of course, the yearly plan and cut that into two pieces and say, what can we deliver in the next 3 months? What does it take? Who needs to do what? And so forth. And then lastly, in the squads, on a bi-weekly basis, they do sprint planning and deliver value actually every 2 weeks. I think that's one of the things that is still mind-blowing for me, participating every 2 weeks in these 6 squads, sprint reviews, and just hearing how many things are being delivered all the time. And of course, it's not implementing a new system every 2 weeks, but just improving and sort of crunching that machinery to deliver value to the organization. Super exciting, and of course also really engaging for our people to see that we are actually all the time sort of moving the needle. So that was the speed talking over the last year and a half, what we've been trying to do. And just summing up here, before taking some questions, just stating sort of, or setting a couple of examples of where we are today. None of this, of course, is easy. And working with such a complex setup as HR systems are, we have more than 80 different applications covering all these different countries, interactions with all our other systems in the bank and so on. There are, of course, daily challenges, daily struggles to make the ends meet and so forth. But we are really, really proud of what we have achieved in the last year and a half here. And I will show you 2 examples of what we have done. One of them is that we follow up on a bi-yearly basis and ask all our tribe members how they feel about this agile transformation. We did one in, I think, April 2021, right after the launch of the new setup. we improved towards August, as I showed here. We had 18% of our people strongly agreeing that they were motivated and optimistic about working in this setup, and 62% agreeing. A pretty good place to be, we felt, at least back in August, after about half a year. But then just a few weeks ago, receiving the new survey here, showing an incredible increase in the motivation in our team. So now more than 90% are engaged or strongly agreeing to being motivated or optimistic, and only 6% or 8% feeling that this is not really working for them. So really an incredible transformation here, and something that we are constantly working on. This also gives us input to what parts of the Agile ceremonies are not working. Do you still need to see what is the purpose of different things and so on? So really having this approach where we, celebrate what we have achieved, but also always looks for places where we can improve. So that's super exciting. And the other example here is also really want to be proud of. I think about a year and a half ago, we launched a new recruitment module. Our main priority at that time was to improve the user experience for our external candidates, which we succeeded on when delivering in a relatively short time, getting the system out there. But what we also realized was that the new system was not received very well by our leaders, who of course also have a big role working in that system. So actually it couldn't be worse when you did an NPS score, at least of a part of the process here. We got in September an NPS score of minus 100, which is quite bad. We then did interviews, we looked at data, we looked at the processes and so forth, and within half a year, we had changed the NPS score to plus 40, which is actually really, really good, and especially when you look at where we were coming from. So again, that approach, in the same way we do with the internal engagement, motivation in the team, always trying to look at data. What are people telling us? Where can we find ways to improve? And then just continuously working to improve that. And there's actually a Kaizen workshop going on this week where we are still trying to improve, both for leaders, for candidates, and of course also for our talent acquisition partners, with the purpose, which is basically our overall purpose in the tribe, to release potential in the bank. And we believe we can do that by both freeing up time to do more value-adding stuff, but also energy. There's so much energy being wasted in being frustrated about systems that don't work and so on. So if we can remove that, we believe that we can release so much more energy that can be used towards our external customers in the bank. And with that, thank you for listening.
Excellent. It's really interesting, Kasper, and I've got so many questions. We've also got a few questions coming in from the audience, so we've got lots to discuss. Cool. I think, so you don't get off lightly today, Kasper.
No, I can stay for another hour or so.
Fabulous. I think probably one of the key questions to start with is, reflecting on your 17 years at Danske Bank, and the change that you would have gone through now to realize these outcomes, but also the changes that you've gone through over the years. So this is called better ways of working. How does someone like yourself, and therefore lead the wider organization, change from sort of this old mindset that you potentially had and potentially you see in the organization to embrace this new way of working? Because ultimately, Agile transformation is really asking people to let go of how they've worked before and really embrace this whole new way and a new mindset. So I just wanted to know, what has that been like for you, particularly given your history with the organization? And is it possible? Because there's always this big debate of, can someone that's been there for a long time change as well as everybody else? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think a simple answer might be that you have to approach it in an agile way. So first of all, I think there's a big decision, and in Danske Bank, we really had that from the very top. We don't know exactly how this is going to play out, but we believe that this is the right thing to do. Of course, we can see in other companies and so forth that they are succeeding with this, but we also truly believe that it's going to work. We don't know how, but let's give it a go, right? So I think that part is important, having that very clear commitment across the entire organization. And then secondly, it's about really that iterative approach. So of course we do trainings and so forth for our leaders, for our employees, but it's also about having that open mindset about it, being, as mentioned, also organizing. We have this tribe coach and agile coaches that every day try to challenge us, because I always also fall into the pitfalls of old ways of working, right? But then really asking them openly to challenge, and also to employees and so forth, saying, hey, let me know how I did, and collecting the feedback and then continuing, and then acknowledging that we are not perfect, and instead of blaming ourselves for not being perfect, then celebrating the successes and being curious about where to improve.
Yeah, so it's really embracing that agile feedback loop.
Exactly. It really is a continuous. In the same way you develop a new system, you try it out, you look at the data, you ask for feedback and so forth, and then you try something else.
Yes, exactly. Cool. And so, I like that idea that we don't all have the answers. We're not totally sure of the outcome, but maybe that's a bit like life itself. And that we're all in it together as well. So really nice themes there. Kasper, I'm going to hit you up with some very specific questions that have come in from the audience. So they'll jump around a little bit. The first one is the tribe coach. So going back to your image of the squads and tribes, is the tribe coach, do they mainly support the leaders of the people tribe or the entire team? What's your answer on that one?
So when we launched, we had in our also just to set the context here, we are, as mentioned, 6 squads with 75 people or so. So we had one tribe coach in the senior leadership team, and then we had 2 agile coaches that reported to the tribe coach. So the tribe coach main role was across the entire tribe and changing me and my IT lead. And then we have agile coaches who were working every day with the squads, with the product owners, to also change them. So this has to, everybody needs to change in this. And that's the role of the tribe coach and the agile coaches, to really basically change everything we did every day into new ways.
Yeah. So I get a sense that the coaching or having someone to play that coach role or provide that coach role is quite important then for this type of change, and I suppose sustaining the change.
Absolutely.
What's your thoughts on that? Yeah.
Yeah, but again, it's a super important role. Absolutely. And as you just mentioned, sustaining it, I've done a number of different cultural transformations, lean transformations, and so on. And actually where we are right now, I think, is the most risky place to be, but because you just reach sort of one level and you think, now we are really cool, right? But you have to be, again, humble and realize that you are only getting started, and actually avoiding falling in to old ways of working is super risky right now. So we are quite quite focused on that, and then again continuously looking at both sustaining what we have achieved, but also looking at improvement areas.
Yeah, great. No, I think that's a really good call out, that this is the most important stage to kind of see it through.
I can't count the number of times I've seen, yes, we did a fantastic transformation, and then after 1 or 2 years you let go, and then everything disappears again.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there's this idea, and this is where I'm not so sure these days whether transformation is the right word, because it sort of feels like there's an end point, but actually it's continuous evolution, isn't it? So yeah, that's the danger. Yeah. Okay, so I think we've kind of answered quite a few questions that came in actually through that discussion just then. Yeah, so I think to Anna, that you've just heard that it covers 75 people across the whole HR team, or what was used to be the HR department. We've talked about the coach's role to encourage rhythm and change and ways of working. And there was one question that's come in, and maybe you could just give me a nice quick answer. Did you lose anybody due to the change?
Yes, we did. Yes. And I think that that happens every time when you do something like this. You give everybody a chance, but there will be a few who decide that this is not for them. And I actually think it's very natural and okay that they, after giving it a try, leave, find something else, and then you hire somebody else who really wants to be part of it. So I think it's important to focus on the ones that wants to be there.
Yeah.
And part of it.
Well said. Great. Well, it was fabulous to see you again, Kasper. Hopefully, I'll see you next year again.
Likewise.
And we can keep this conversation going. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.